Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Host Eddie Frederick.
So glad you can join us. Sam Bankman Fried, former cryptocurrency billionaire, pleads not guilty to new charges. This story takes the lead in today's edition of Caribbean Perspective for Friday, 7th April 2023. Details when we return.
Hubbard's Multi-Department Mount Gay and Hubbard's Tire Bay, located at the Building Supplies Compound in Grand Anse, are reminding the motoring public that another round for licensing and inspection has begun. Just arrived on new shipments of quality furrowed and torque tires to fit all makes and models of vehicles at competitive pricing. Shop early to avoid the hassle of long lines. WhatsApp them on 473-405-5482. Hubbard's, quality service, affordable prices.
Welcome back. Sam Bankman Fried, former cryptocurrency billionaire, pleads not guilty in a New York court to new charges. More in this ZNS news item.
Over in New York, former cryptocurrency billionaire Sam Bankman Fried's maintaining his innocence in the face of new U.S. charges of conspiracy to violate campaign finance laws and bribe Chinese authorities. Online reports are that SBF entered the not guilty plea through his attorney, Mark Cohen, at a hearing before U.S. District Judge Lewis Kaplan in Manhattan. Cohen's initial plan was to challenge the new charges on the grounds that they were brought after Bankman Fried was extradited from the Bahamas soon after his arrest in December. The 31-year-old subsequently appeared in a U.S. court and released on $250 million bond that restricted him to his parents' California home. He stands accused of stealing billions of dollars in FTX customer funds. The disgraced wunderkind faces a possible sentence of decades behind bars if found guilty. Bankman Fried's trial is set to start October 2nd.
Jamaica's leader promised a sustained reduction in violent crimes across Jamaica in 2023, which so far is going according to script, as the Jamaica Constabulary Force, the JCF, is reporting 291 fewer incidents of serious crime in 2023 when compared with the same period last year.
At the end of March 2023, that's the end of the quarter that we just completed, major crimes were down by 22% when compared to last year. Murders were down by 21%. Shootings were down by 13%. Rapes were down by 47%. Robberies were down by 32%, and break-ins down by 11%.
The current crime-fighting efforts are apparently yielding positive results, as indicated by Police Commissioner Major General Anthony Anderson in his presentation at Tuesday's Jamaica Constabulary Forces quarterly press briefing. The commissioner says despite the decline, there is more to be done as there is concern regarding the attribution of murder across the island.
As at March 31st again, young conflicts accounted for 67% of these murders. Interpersonal conflicts accounted for 22%, while 4% occurred in the furtherance of other criminal acts, and 7% are still being determined.
He says the successes of the police are a direct result of collaborations between the Jamaica Defense Force and the citizens of Jamaica.
We have been seeing encouraging signs that communities are less willing to accept criminals in their midst. The strategy of our commanders and their teams to be closer to their communities and build relationships is working. We do not regard these efforts as an event, but as an ongoing part of our policing plan.
He assures Jamaicans will start to feel much safer soon. Natalia Clark reporting for CVM Live.
The University of the West Indies St. Augustine campus said it has not turned a blind eye to continued protests at the university and hopes that negotiations can be settled as quickly as possible. TTT News has more.
The UWI St. Augustine campus said it has not turned a blind eye to continued protests at the university and hopes that negotiations can be settled as quickly as possible. The campus said every effort has been made to minimize the impact on students over the past few weeks, but escalated actions by the West Indies group of university teachers has been understandably frustrating for them. It said the continued action has impacted normal operations, extending beyond the classrooms, tutorials, and upload of coursework results. UE noted that salary negotiations for all staff are ongoing with the government of Trinidad and Tobago via the Chief Personnel Officer. Campus management maintained that it is awaiting word on the remits to enable the process to go forward, noting the discussions are ongoing with the CPO to secure these remits. The management team added that it is conscious of the anxiety surrounding the need to settle negotiations and is hoping for its speedy conclusion.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. A legislative bill providing the legal framework for partnership between member countries and the Caribbean community and the African Export-Import Afrexim Bank was passed into law in St. Kitts and Nevis in a 4th April 2023 sitting of the National Assembly. Glenn Bart of SK Newsline reports.
Introduced by Prime Minister Dr. Terence Drew, the Minister of Finance, the new law will enable the government of St. Kitts and Nevis to take advantage of investment opportunities that could push forward the development of the country in significant ways. Speaking in the National Assembly on the matter, Prime Minister Drew referred to a meeting held with the President of Afrexim Bank here in St. Kitts and Nevis and of memorandums of understanding already signed.
And on the 14th November 2022, the Cabinet welcomed members of the Afrexim Bank on their first official visit to St. Kitts and Nevis. The Afrexim Bank team presented several proposed interventions and partnership in the following areas, Madam Speaker. 1. Solar power plants. We discuss renewable energy. As you know, renewable energy is part of establishing a sustainable island state. And while we are looking at geothermal, where we have made significant steps, the federal government with the Nevis Island administration, we are looking at other opportunities to build out our energy sector. And of course, solar power plants would be being considered to be a significant part of that. And so we have signed an MOU with Elsrady. Elsrady is a company that participates in producing and also supplying and also managing solar energy. And so that MOU, which we signed in Bahamas, was the first MOU signed between any country and the Afrexim Bank. So we were first, Madam Speaker, in making sure that we turn these great discussions that we would have had with the Afrexim Bank into tangible benefits. And so we will continue our discussion with Elsrady to make sure that we can benefit from this.
The Prime Minister said an MOU was signed also with Evergreen, a company supported by Afrexim Bank for the development of aquaculture in the Federation. In the agreement signed with Afrexim Bank, much of the workers and managers on projects would be sourced nationally as part of the development of the country's human resources. Glenn Bard reporting for SK Newsline.
Turning our attention to Trinidad and Tobago a little bit more, where a 32-year-old man is treated in hospital for gunshot wounds after he was injured in an alleged kidnapping on Sunday last. More in this HGP Nightly News item with Joel Vogt.
The incident took place between 10:50 a.m. and 1 p.m. Sunday. The ordeal began along El Carmen Road, St. Helena, when the businessman was at his establishment. A Nissan Sylphy drove into the yard, and 4 masked men exited the car and confronted the 33-year-old and pushed him into the backseat of the vehicle and drove off. Eyewitnesses contacted the police, and officers from the Northern Division responded. The getaway car was spotted on the Church Hill Roosevelt Highway near Mossico, while the suspects allegedly opened fire on the lawmen and the police returned to the scene. It was reported that the suspect drove onto Mossico Road and then towards Reichland Park of the Arima Old Road. However, while maneuvering along the Arima Old Road, they lost control and crashed into a gate. Police then stopped a short distance away and called on the suspects to surrender. The men instead continued to open fire at the police, all while retreating into the forested area of the roadway. The officers then heard screams coming from the car, and upon checking, they found the 33-year-old businessman bleeding from gunshot wounds.
Head of the Tobago Business Chamber, Martin George, says that the governance of Tobago is paramount to the formation of a new political party by Assemblyman Farley Augustine and his team. Mr. George spoke in a WhatsApp video sent to the media on Wednesday. More in this report.
1 minute you are describing it as a launch of a party, then the next minute you trying to say, well, it's a conversation to hear from the people as to what they want. What the people want is good governance. What the people want is an identifiable political vehicle and mechanism by which they can identify the goals, the policies, the principles, the practices, the procedures, and the promises so that they can hold you accountable in regards to your term of office.
Mr. George said the Farley Augustine-led independents need to get their act together. On Tuesday, Mr. Augustine and all independents gathered at the Chopard complex for the formation of a new political party in Tobago.
Having regard to the attempted launch of a political entity which occurred yesterday, which then was suggested that it was not a launch of a political entity, it does not exactly send the right signal, and it does not exactly inspire confidence in Tobagonians that the independents really at this stage seem to know what they're doing.
George said this is not what the people of Tobago voted for.
People are still in the dark. They still don't know anything about it. You still have no clear indication of a name, a direction, a political leader. You've heard talk of an interim political leader. And, you ask yourself, is this what Tobago voted for? There must be some level of accountability and ethical and moral responsibility and maturity that you show to the people of Tobago by treating their business with dignity, responsibility, and respect, and show that you are serious about getting your act together, even if it is that you form your new party. There's nothing wrong with that, but be serious about it and come with something tangible that people can work with and identify with and be able to move forward with.
Elizabeth Williams, TV6 News.
The body of a Florida 2-year-old who was the subject of a frantic search has been found after being dropped from the jaws of an alligator.
St. Petersburg Police Chief Anthony Holloway also said the boy's father, 21-year-old Thomas Mosley, will be charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder in the killing of the boy's mother, 20-year-old Pashawn Jeffrey, and their young son, Taylen Mosley. Searchers, including dive teams and officers using drones, had been intensely looking for the boy since his mother's body was discovered in their apartment earlier last week, and he was nowhere to be found. Officers searching for the toddler at a lake a few miles from the apartment complex noticed an alligator with an object in its mouth that they quickly realized was a child's body, Holloway said. The officers fired shots at the reptile, which dropped the body. Jeffrey, who worked at a CVS store, and her son were last seen by family members around 5:20 p.m. Wednesday. Police have said around 8:30 p.m. neighbors heard a loud commotion near their apartment, but police were not called. The next day, Jeffrey's mother contacted the apartment complex property manager after not hearing from her daughter. She was found dead with several stab wounds.
Hubbards is once again innovating the way you shop with its new online store, providing 24-hour shopping convenience. You can shop now for appliances, hardware, houseware, building material, and more. Free delivery island-wide. Start shopping now at HubbardsHardware.gd. Safe, convenient, reliable.
I am Eddie Frederick, wishing you a restful weekend. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean. In the meantime, please continue to log on to CaribbeanPerspective.com for more daily news and more.